This is an It Came From GenX video.
Hey everybody, happy August. I am Keith Porter. This is It Came From GenX. Welcome to our show. I say ours because I am joined with my besties since a long time ago. That's why
we
we're
don't want
Gen
to count that
Xers.
number.
No, we won't count that number. That was Michael Skinner, aka the Skin Bone, and down below Brian Fisher, aka Fish. Welcome, fellas. Good to see you again.
Good to see you,
Anyway,
brother.
we're gonna get a show cooking because we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Um, had a couple of tough shows as of late. Tough subject matter. We got a few things today that are a little rough, but we got a lot of fun stuff. This is a show all about life through the eyes of Gen Xers, and we are three high school friends, still hanging together, deeply involved in each other's lives, and we decided to put this show on. Going on what, a year and a half now?
This particular show, yeah.
Yeah, this particular show. So we hope you enjoyed the show. We're also the guys from the football show, Reality Football. We might talk about that a little bit later. So right now, say hello to my man, Fisher. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man, good to see you again. Ran into you a few minutes ago. Yep,
at the gym.
The gym. Yep, absolutely.
And I don't want to ask you how your weekend was because I know for the most part how it was.
That's right. Yeah, we had a lot of fun at Coach Cooper's. All three of us were at Coach Cooper's annual luau. He's done for the last couple of years. Just a lot of hard work over there. Everything looks so beautiful.
I
the
had
food
to
was
tell
great.
him what the effort they put on for that show. Coach Cooper and his wife Amy was tremendous. Nothing but good people there. Nothing but.
Yeah, absolutely. They're very, very a lot of fun. Like you say, good folks around there. Yeah, that was it. Just kind of chilling out around the rest of the weekend from that. So very nice weekend overall.
And of course, my before I got to the luau, I got a little stirred up. Some kid thought it would be great to fire 7 shots at me, but another story for another day. Crazy. All right, Scambone, what's going on, brother?
Oh, nope, nothing much. We went to the camper yesterday and got some work done down there. Took the kids; they went swimming. I just worked around the lot there, but definitely had a good time. Our plans fell through. We were supposed to be up on Lake Erie on Saturday, so we ended up being able to partake in the luau, and glad we did.
Glad it did. Yeah, worked out great.
Got to see everybody. Got to see a lot of great people. Had a lot of fun. So good weekend otherwise.
All right, cool. Well, let's get this thing cooking. Fish, tell them where they can find the show.
All right. You might be listening to us on WMVU.org, Global Internet Radio, Mondays from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Just pull up their site or their app, play live listen, and you can listen to us right there every week if you would like. They also have a lot of other fine content, free of charge, music, other shows, a lot of good stuff there. Listen to us whenever you feel like it on demand. We can be found on many major podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Verbal, Stitcher, and a new one here, guys. We are now on iHeartRadio.
I love that.
Yeah, it's another free app, and they have a lot of live radio stations out there, and also plenty of podcasts now, including ours. So we can pull up that app, find us there, and follow us. And as we post new episodes on any of these platforms, give us a follow or subscribe, however the app works. As we publish new episodes every week, they'll pop into your podcast feed. You can listen to us whenever you have the time to do so. All show information, our YouTube channel, It Came From GenX, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I said TikTok already. TikTok twice. I'm going to mention it twice. It's so good. That's right. Links to those will be found in two main places. Our Linktree account. Just pull up Linktree. It Came From GenX. It'll simply be a page with links to our social media. Very simple. Or our website. It came from genx.wordpress.com. All show information is there. Links to where you can listen to us there too. Links to current episodes, videos, bios, promos, all that good stuff. And if you are so inclined to sponsor the show, you may find a link to our Patreon account on the website or pull up Patreon/It Came From GenX or Patreon.com, that is, /It Came From GenX if you wish to and give us a couple bucks or whatever you want to do. You don't have to do that, but we appreciate it if you did. And best thing you do though is tell a friend, like, listen, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. That's how we grow a little bit. So we appreciate your support out there. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. You can also
So
find
we,
us
real
at
quick, we need to,
www. Hey, don't worry, happens to otherguys.com. So
That's right.
check us out
real
on
quick
there.
with that iHeartRadio announcement, we need the Jeffersons theme song to
Yeah,
play
George is
while
born.
saying that.
That's right.
Moving
right.
on up.
Right. Right.
Well, gosh, a lot of good stuff to talk about, interesting things to talk about, a few deep subjects to talk about. With that being said, World News. Skinner, take it away.
All right. Well, we kind of touched on it a little bit with Lake Mead talking about that out in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, but boy, there's been a lot going on even since then. Currently, Las Vegas is underwater for the first time in God knows how long. They actually had to close the strip down in areas in Las Vegas because of flooding. Same was going with at the same time in eastern Kentucky, the same thing. I don't know exactly what the levels there, but houses were completely covered up to their roofs. People having to be rescued. There was talk of a 100-year-old lady somehow ended up on her roof and was rescued by people. So, first of all, to those folks out there, our hearts and our prayers and thoughts are out to them. But I wanted to bring it up because of a Gen X spin. When we were kids, do you recall having all these extreme weather things? Every once in a while, we'd hear about here or there, we'd heard about a hurricane or possibly a tornado. Especially if you go into the panhandle of Oklahoma or in Texas, out there, the tornadoes were always going on. But over the last 20 years, so we're going back to 2000. So let's go back 1980 to 1999. There was 3,656 events known as extreme climate-related disasters or extreme weather. Since 2000, that number has jumped to 6,681 recorded events. That's more than just global warming, guys. You know, there's been talk for years about global warming and everything that's going on, but like we were talking in a pre-show setup, I remember when we were kids, we would get in October here in Northeast Ohio, we'd get into our costumes and probably have shorts on underneath. And we would go and do our trick-or-treating in October. Flash forward to 20, 25 years ago when our older kids were younger, they had coats on because there was snow flying at the end of October. And now here we are over the last 10 years or so, it's back to our kids have a light jacket on or they need a freaking umbrella because it's usually raining in Northeast Ohio. But have you guys recalled or know or understand what is going on with these extreme weathers? Real quick to note that in January, Australia reached a temperature of 124 degrees. First time in recorded weather history in Australia that they reached the 120 plus mark. They also had 11 days of extreme heat of 104 plus, which that had never happened. Europe right now, like Brian was saying earlier, they are not equipped for the heat. They had their first ever heat warning when they recorded a temperature of 107 degrees, I believe. That doesn't happen over there in England. It's always raining there. Usually 70s, 80s in the summertime. What is there? Is there an explanation? Is there a memory you guys have of extreme weather? We could talk about the blizzard in 1978. You know, we were pretty young. I don't recall it. I remember all the pictures from it, but I don't recall actually living it. I was only 6 at the time. But do you guys remember or recall a specific time where weather was so extreme in Northeast Ohio?
Can't hear you, Keith.
One of the things I want to say is there's a lot of reasons for why that's going on right now. A lot of reasons, because you're talking different types of things. There's floods, there's hurricanes, there's earthquakes, there's tremors, there's dry heat, there's extreme cold, there's flooding. There's all sorts of different things going on. There's different reasons that attribute to it. I do believe that HARP, HAARP, has a lot to do with it. If you haven't read or seen anything about that, look it up. It is a weather machine that America has created. It is humongous, and it changes weather patterns. And I believe it's been weaponized, but it is incredible. It can create different weather patterns and wherever they aim it at. I believe that has a lot to do with it. I believe just things shifting in the atmosphere has caused some changes. And just me being who I am, I believe the scriptures that in these last days there will be floods and earthquakes in different type places that it normally wouldn't be. And you're talking about a flood out in the desert. So that's pretty extreme when you say Florida, not Florida, Las Vegas got a flood. I mean, that's the desert, you know. So you think
Right.
about that, that's pretty amazing. So that being said, the only major thing I can remember, I remember in the late 80s, we had a snowstorm here that wouldn't quit, several feet of snow. But the only two major things that stick out, I was really, really young, but I watched a show on it in school, the big tornado that took out Xenia, Ohio, back in 1974. That was unbelievable. And then, of course, 26 years later, they get hit in 2000 with another huge tornado. So those are the only two major things that I can think of that were extreme. Fish?
I think it's Madonna, Keith, putting a spell.
Hey,
Because she is a
you
witch.
never know. You never know.
Yep.
She
No,
really
Oh,
is.
Madonna reaches the show again.
Yep. I don't necessarily believe in the some of the stuff that you mentioned, but
Mhm.
it's just the warmer air in general is wreaking havoc with the weather patterns across the globe. I mean, that's just what it is. I mentioned off camera as well that heard a podcast, the New York Times Daily podcast the other day, and it was a whole episode talking about the Great Salt Lake in Utah drying up, and if it does dry up completely, they may literally have to walk around with a gas mask out in Utah if a dust storm brings up some of the dangerous particles and minerals and everything that's at the bottom of that lake here. And they attribute it to warmer air means less snow. Less snow is less water coming down the mountain to fill up the lake and other reservoirs and everything else. So that type of stuff's happening everywhere. So, and it's just going to continue to get worse until
That's insane. Something
even
like
if
that happens.
even if the large nations like us, which we are way behind in, lower emissions and try to slow it. It can get better. It's going to take a lot of years to get better, but it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of large nations to reduce the greenhouse gases and shorten or cut down our reliance on fossil fuels and everything else to start to slowly turn things around if it's not too late already. So, I mean, as a kid, yeah, we just didn't see stuff like this. Like you said, we had to. You mentioned the blizzard already, Skinner. It's just the big snowfalls like that are very uncommon these days in Northeast Ohio.
And of course, when was the extreme heat? That was what, 88?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
87,
Yep.
88. I'll never forget
yeah,
that summer, over
yeah,
100 for a
that's
few
right.
days. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but for the most part, it wasn't. I mean, I don't know about your
yeah.
guys' houses. I
And
didn't have
for
any central
reference,
air.
for
Go
reference
ahead.
to some of our listeners, we're in Akron, Ohio. So that's
Yes.
the area we're talking about. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we didn't
Yeah.
have central air at the house. Yeah, we got one window unit at some point, but I mean, it was okay. It was tolerable. I mean, you had fans and you had a couple of things going, and it was okay. You know, I'm sort of used to that now. Even I don't run the air as much, but anyway, it's just a whole different. It's just like you say, things are changing dangerously, and it's impacting a lot of areas across the globe with the increased storms, and when the storms do hit, they're much more severe with hurricanes and typhoons and everything else. So it's crazy. Like you say, it's very, yeah. If you're a religious person, like Keith, I could definitely see where it's like, hey, it's if mankind doesn't get their crap together, then may not be around. It's something to where it's like as a kid, I mean, to me anyway, to think of a day where the planet wouldn't be sustainable. You know what I'm saying? Did seem like a sci-fi thing, but now
When you think
you
about how
can
the planet
see,
is sustained now, it's amazing to think
yeah,
about. Sitting
you can
floating
see
in
it.
space.
Yeah, you can see a
It's
day many years from now where
yeah.
certain parts of the United States are going to be perhaps uninhabitable. Not going to be able to get water
Mhm.
there. They already have problems getting water to some areas. So you're going to have
Hmm.
coastal cities, being submerged and falling into the water, and it's just crazy, man. It's frightening
All
if
right.
you think about it.
All right. Thank you, Skinner.
Yep.
That your stories for today?
I do not have anything else.
All right. Well,
We'll
we
move it on
appreciate it.
to some sports and music.
All right. Sports and music. So start off with some sports, guys. Um, Definitely want to start off with the biggest story of today, which trumped what we thought would be the biggest story of the day. And pretty sad, we have lost an icon of
Hmm.
icons, uh, NBA legend, Boston Celtic legend. Bill Russell has passed away um, at the age what was it?
Was it 88? I
Eight,
think.
88, yes.
88, I believe. Yeah.
88 years old. Yeah, he was born in 1934. Same year as my mom. Um, William Felton Russell was his name. He owns 13 NBA championships. I don't understand when we get into this greatest of all time stuff, as great as Jordan was, how we don't.
You know what? That's a
Who's
great
better?
point.
Yeah, who's better, LeBron or Jordan? I'm always like Bill Russell. And if not Bill
You're
Russell,
right.
why isn't Kareem mentioned?
Yeah,
you know.
you're right.
So man, 13. That's like a whole decade, and then 3 years
It's
into the
insane.
next one.
Hmm.
That's sick.
Yeah.
So I talked about if you were 10 years old enough to pay attention to basketball, and LeBron came into the league, every NBA finals, you wouldn't know anything but LeBron being there. Or Tom Brady being there. But Bill Russell, the difference between him is he won them all.
Yeah,
Every
that's right.
single one of them.
Yeah.
And not only was he the greatest and the most accomplished champion, but he became one of the best ambassadors of the game, a man of wisdom. He showed, at least on TV, great class and
Yeah.
poise, and he was very, very well respected and well spoken. Thoughts on Bill Russell, Skinner?
Oh, yeah. Where do we begin? When you think of basketball and you think about basketball legends, he's always at the top of my list. Being a Boston fan growing up, Boston Celtics. I mean, he was before my time, of course, and our time, both of us,
Mhm.
but we knew who Bill Russell was sitting there in the sidelines watching Danny Ainge and,
Mhm.
all them guys playing in the 80s, Larry Bird and all them.
Right.
But like, you couldn't have said any better being an ambassador to basketball.
Mm.
And the man was just an incredible human being, and he's a huge loss to the NBA world and to
Yeah.
mankind, for that matter. To be
Yeah.
honest,
So we talked a minute ago about him not being in that conversation when they talk. To me personally, Fish, I think a lot of it is one, the era that he was in.
Mhm.
So a lot of us that are in that, either watching or controlling the basketball world didn't get to see him play. Number two, the lack of television, cable, social media, all these things that Jordan started at the perfect time. Cable television had just blown up,
Mhm.
a few years ago, and he became a worldwide phenomenon. So everybody around the world saw him play. Of course, the shoe deals got started back in his era. All these things that, boy, if Bill Russell played today, how do you think he'd be perceived, Fish?
He'd still be a dominant force out there. I mean, it's obviously a different game
No,
back when he played, but still.
if you played today and won 13 championships,
Oh, I see what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
Royalty.
it's insane. It's to do that. I think he won like 11 in a row, something crazy.
yeah. I think they
You
changed the
know,
name of the league after him. It'd be crazy.
yeah. It's quite the accomplishment, and he was also the first black head coach in a major league. So,
Right.
and he was actually a player coach at the time. I think they won, if I recall correctly, he won like 2 championships as a player coach. Think about that. So it's
That's
just
amazing.
amazing. And he in Boston, it is, I don't know if it's, I don't say especially, but you go back and look, and he contended with a lot of horrible racism
Oh
and
my
damage to his
gosh.
home
Yeah.
and terrible
Yes.
comments. And kudos to Red Auerbach for giving him a chance. And he always seemed like he handled himself with the grace
Mm-hmm.
and dignity. And he was, along with other athletes as well, with Muhammad Ali and Kareem. They were definitely civil rights activists back in their
Yes.
time. So
So
just,
I'm
like you
glad you
say,
brought that
amazing
up,
man.
Fish. That is a
Yeah.
great point. So when you factor in 13 NBA titles, 11-year run, ambassador to the game, player, coach,
Yeah.
the racist horrors that he had to endure, civil rights movement. I don't think there's without question. In my opinion, he's the greatest basketball player of all time.
Yeah.
That's for my money. Go ahead,
As you
Skinner.
guys are talking, I'm reading up on him a little bit. His college career, he was ignored by college recruiters and received not one offer until Hal DeJulio from the University of San Francisco. What the hell school is that? University of San Francisco gave him a scholarship. Can you imagine what all those schools are thinking after that?
Idiot. Yeah.
How the hell do
Yeah.
they not offer that guy a scholarship back in the day?
Mm.
What they should do, the league should consider, I don't know if they would or not, but they're certainly going to honor him this year for sure. I would venture to
Oh,
guess. They'll
I
probably
would
have a
imagine it's
patch, or,
going to be all about him.
the number 5 or something,
I'm going to be pissed if they don't.
change the
think-
logo to him for
Yeah.
one season, something
Yeah.
like that.
I think the whole year is going to be about him. Pretty sure.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Okay,
Yeah,
guys. In the same
amazing man.
vein of sports, not such a. Well, I mean, it's not a good story that he passed away, but he was good to talk about. He was great.
Yeah.
This right here, I'm gonna just come out and say up front, sickens me. 2 years after the first civil lawsuit was filed against DeShaun Walton, the verdict came down today. He will be suspended for the first 6 games of the 2022 season.
Go Browns.
Violating the personal
going.
conduct.
Yeah. I don't know what was said in the room, the discussion, what was weighed in. I'm going to be fair. I don't know what proof they had or did not have. We do know that he settled several of these out of court in a large monetary fashion. So, with that all being said, women are really upset, and I don't blame them. A lot of them feel like they have really taken it on the chin this year with the Roe v. Wade decision, and just victims of sexual assault are just kind of like, wow, are you serious? 6 freaking games for 24 counts of sexual assault. And
Okay. I got a question for you.
Sure.
The woman, I don't know what her name was, that handed down the verdict today, said that there was evidence of sexual assault. How can this woman say this? And again, I'm not for either side of this, all right? How can she say this, but there were two separate grand juries in the state of Texas that said there was absolutely no evidence to indict him on any charge of any type of assault.
No conviction.
That's my biggest question that I don't think will ever get answered.
Because I'll tell you why. It's because one has to have a certain burden of proof than the other one. So there might not enough to be convicted in a criminal court or to bring a criminal indictment. It doesn't mean, like for instance, okay, if I know for a fact, if I get something of recording that shows you killing somebody, and that recording went from hand to hand to hand, and I know I'm watching you do it, and it's fine. But when you get arrested and they find out that the chain of command was broken and they can't authenticate that recording, well, that part's going to be dismissed, because it came from a bad place and it's called fruit of the poisonous tree. So without that being admissible or even able to be mentioned, you cannot have criminal charges brought against you. Well, that level is dropped in a civil court or a court of like the NFL Players Committee, where we can say, well, we know for a fact we're looking at this recording because we don't have such burdens. So we know that you're guilty. Regardless if you can get convicted in criminal court, we right here, we're looking at it. So that's why that happened. So that lets me know that he's guilty. You just made a great point. That's why he's guilty. And to give this guy 6 games, man, we have seen them bring down hammers harder than that or equal for stupid stuff. We just had a recent one. I'm trying to look it up here, and I think the NFL should be ashamed of themselves. They have again repeatedly showed that they don't care about women and all this. We got a woman coach, we got a woman this and that. Is to me is nothing but window dressing, because when it comes down to it, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, they have shown that they don't give a crap about women. And as long as a player's going to be able to make money, they're going to look the other way. Just my opinion is how I feel. I thought Ben Roethlisberger should have been thrown out the league. I felt that that girl knew what she was doing, but at the same token, he shouldn't have been able to play. So if I felt that way about him, DeShaun Watson, in my opinion, shouldn't be able to play for at least the whole year, if not kicked out the league, period. We're talking about 24 counts, not one count, but 24. Fish, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, something, like we said before, where there's smoke, there's fire. So definitely there was some bad behavior for sure. I listened to ESPN earlier today. I didn't realize the whole process here, but apparently because they couldn't seem to get things right in these rulings and all that, they brought in this woman who was an ex-federal judge to help them make decisions as a neutral party, and then she gives her recommendation. So this is the first recommendation that she has provided. All right, so obviously you have a female judge, giving you the recommendation. The league can, if it chooses to, it can appeal. So the NFL can come back and say, well, we think that's too light. And I don't know what happens from there if they revisit. I heard that Roger Goodell could come in and overrule her recommendation, all that. Then you got the other side of it. Well, you guys hired this woman to come in and make these decisions, and now you're going to say her very first case, you're going to throw it out and appeal. What are you going to do? So they have a whole odd political thing going on here. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. But
they
I was
just
surprised.
Suspended Bradley Roby, cornerback, 6 games for a banned substance, who he has come out and said he did not know taking this was illegal. It wasn't a steroid or anything like that. It was just on the banned substance list. He got 6 games, and you give DeShaun Watson the same amount of games.
Yeah, I think this is the odd thing is that, there's no convictions and a lot of evidence, but no, I don't know. It's weird. So I guess we'll see. I tend to think the NFL may appeal, and maybe they come back and say, okay, 8 games or something like that. But he's not going to get thrown out of the league, and he's not going to get the full year. That's just probably not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. That ain't going to happen. Skinner, your thoughts?
With my question, kind of got me where I was at. I don't know what my thoughts are, to be truthful. There needs
we don't
to
either
be
half the time, so that's all right.
Yeah, I know. Something's got to be done with this particular subject when it comes to the way the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, all these leagues, how these participants, I'm gonna call them athletes. Let's just call them participants, and how they treat women. You hear it over the years, and it's gotten worse as time goes on. Something's got to be done. Why they can't throw the hammer down on one person versus another, or just do it across the board. You made a mention of Ben Roethlisberger. He was in trouble in a couple of different times. Not once was he convicted in a court of law, but where there's smoke, there's fire, like Fisher said earlier. In his case, DeShaun Watson's case, the couple different times, the Baltimore Ravens, the one running back, got into trouble.
Ray Rice. Yeah.
Ray Rice beat the shit out of the woman in an elevator, has it on camera, and he got a slap on the wrist.
Sorry for the language, folks.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I apologize. Beat the crap out of her. But something's got to be done for these
athletes. He was ostracized. His career was over. His career was pretty much over after that. I think about Major League Baseball. A lot of people don't agree with it, but man, look, they've held the hammer down on a guy like Pete Rose forever.
Well, and that one pitcher used to pitch for us. What was his name? I can't think of his name now.
Jose
the Dodgers.
Mesa.
No.
Or Hershiser.
No, he pitched. This is recent, so he had some type of a weird allegation against him, and they threw him out for indefinitely.
Yeah. So I at least give credit to Major League Baseball. They say what they mean and mean what they say. And here, in NBA, you got all these serious, something, not just allegations, but sometimes you got, definitive proof. And they send a message that is really, really sad. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was hoping that he wasn't guilty. I did not want him to lose his career for something that could not be been proven, but I am pretty convinced that he is guilty. So I don't know, man. Victims of sexual assault, I apologize to you. Women, I know how you feel, but the NFL needs to get its message together. I don't care that you hired the first female strengthening coach. Great, but we got to do better than this. So, all right, guys. That's it for sports. Real quick in music. Man, particularly this day of music, there was a lot of little stories going on, and there was the weirdest things caught my eye and made me want to think real quick. One was the Spice Girls. This day in music, the Spice Girls were on a number one single run in the UK with Viva Forever. And I started thinking about, man, the Spice Girls was a female group that came out in the 90s that just blew up out of nowhere. I remember seeing them for the first time, and they were talking about they were number one. Like, number one, never even heard of them before. Obviously, they got their bones over in the UK, and that's how they were already heard about. And by the time they got to the US, they already had a huge following. And I was just thinking about, man, I thought that group personally was just all fluff. I hear all this. They were strong icons for young girls, and all this other stuff. And I never bought it. I compared them to, and I just went to the 80s, the female groups of the 80s, and see how they compare with them guys. And I wanted to get your opinion on them real quick. So the first group that I thought about, to me, in my opinion, there are two that I think are the most important. That's the Bangles and the Go-Go's.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably know the reason why I respect them two groups so much, because they play their instruments.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that, to me, if you're going to have a positive female groups, you would start with those two. Now, there were groups that I liked, but I didn't think they were necessarily good for young girls. There was the Mary Jane Girls. I thought Escape stunk. I thought Vanity Six stunk. I did like the group Climax, meeting in the ladies' room. That was cool. And of course, my favorite rap group from that era, other than the Fat Boys, is Salt and Pepper. I still love them and what they did. But and the
What
Pointer
about?
Sister. Go ahead,
I
Skinner.
say, I didn't hear you mention the band Vixen.
That's the '90s. I
Okay,
said
all
I'm
right,
sick
you're
of the
right.
'80s, right?
All right,
I
you're right.
loved. I thought the Pointer Sisters was great. I thought Bananarama was all fluff. But the two that I really want to appreciate is the Bangles and the Go Go's. What are your thoughts there, Fish?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a whole other level of respectability for any band, for that matter, not just a female band. Is any band that plays their own instruments. It's a
Mm-hmm.
whole other level of talent and dedication to their craft. And both bands very solid. I mean, you listen to. I mean, you shouldn't be
Very
able to.
solid.
I mean, it doesn't matter who's playing instrument or man or woman. You certainly can't. They just were solid musicians, both those bands, and their vocals were also terrific as well. So yeah, it's just the Spice Girls. They were like a female boy band, if you will.
Yeah, that's
They
exactly what they were. Yeah.
all fluff and everything, and they were entertaining. They were fine,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. Like you say,
All right.
it's play your own instrument. That's a different level of
A
respect,
whole
like you
different
said.
level. Skinner, your thoughts? Anybody I didn't mention that you're thinking of, or your thoughts about the Spice Girls?
No, the first band that came to mind when you said other bands out there was the Go Go's. There's a reason they're in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Spice Girls are not in the Hall of
No,
Fame.
No, no, they're not.
they won't be in there.
So there's a reason the Go Go's are in, and the Spice Girls are not.
Mm-hmm.
They may have been good for girls and the teeny boppers when they were in their heyday, but like you said, musically, put an instrument in their hands, we might be talking a different subject. But
Yeah,
just being a boy band, quote unquote, on the female side, it's
and
not
they
going to
took
cut
an
it,
idea.
unfortunately.
They took an idea that started, in my opinion, with the Beatles, became uh more used in the early heavy metal bands quietly, and they did it more pronounced, and that is give a persona to each body in the band.
Right.
You
Yep,
know,
that was smart.
the Beatles started off with, okay, we John Lennon's the talented one, McCartney's the cute one, and Ringo's the quiet one, and everybody played on his persona. Kiss took it to a different level with makeup, the Star
Yep.
Child, the Demon, blah, so on. And then all the heavy metal bands kind of came out and ran with it. And they just came out and said, "Hey, this is Scary Spice. This is Sporty Spice. I'm gonna wear sport outfit." And they just kind of did the whole persona thing. So I'll give them a lot of credit for that. Okay, guys, 1981, Rick Springfield, the song "Jesse's Girl." Now, my opinion about this song might be a little different than you guys. I think it's a fantastic song. I love this song, but I don't ever want to have to play it again in my life. If you're new to the show, I'm a drummer in a lot of the a few bands here in the area. It is one of the most overplayed songs in the classic rock scene around here. Almost every band I was in, we played that song, and I am sick of it. Lately, I've been in at least a couple bands where I was told when I got there, we will never ever play that song because people are so sick of it. What are your thoughts on Jesse's Girl, Skinner? And can you think of any other overplayed classic rock song that you're just sick of hearing?
Well, you sticking to classic rock, the one that comes to mind to me is "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees. Well, one of the most
I mean,
overplayed songs of all time. But if you're
okay,
sticking
let's
to the
narrow it down. Let's talk about bands.
uh gosh, I mean, you could say a lot of those. As far as Jesse's Girl, it's a catchy tune, made a lot of money as a single. Did it take my drop my drawers? The girls would be all giddy over. No, but it was a good song. Was it overplayed?
Thank you for
Oh,
that analogy. I won't be sleeping. Won't be sleeping tonight no time soon. Thank you. We
is it
appreciate that.
overplayed? Absolutely, was absolutely overplayed. It came on every hour and a half on the radio. If you didn't
Yeah,
hear it on WKDD, you went to the soft rock station and it was on that station.
it was
So,
on that station. Yep.
as far as rock overplayed rock songs, maybe Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood was overplayed. But that's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. All
That's
right.
what I'm saying. I'm trying to stretch for another song that was overplayed, other than all Journey songs were always overplayed. But
Yeah, that was
I,
that's
after
a subject for another time.
loving, touching, squeezing. Maybe go ahead, Fish.
I gotta tell you right now, well, I love that song with Rick Spade. It's just fun. So of course, I haven't played it in a band like you have, so
Mm.
I still love it. But yeah, one of the songs that sticks out for me is, and it's a good song. It got killed with overplay on the radio for me. I never need to hear in the rest of my life AC/DC, You Shook Me All Night Long. I don't
Oh
need to
God.
hear it. It's a good song, and even when I play the album Back in Black, I would still skip, which is almost unheard of to skip any songs when you play that entire album. But it was just so overplayed on the radio. I can't do
Right.
it.
Now
You
that
know,
song gets played a lot, and as a drummer, I enjoy playing that song because it's fun to play with the accents.
sure,
You know, I enjoy playing that song as a drummer. But that is certainly one that gets overplayed. And of course, you know, the iconic thing that gets yelled out every time every band plays is play some Skinner, dude. So I'm pretty
yeah.
sick of Simple Man. Uh, that one gets played a lot, and Sweet Home Alabama. That one's like, man, if I hear that one again. So and a couple of maybe the Creedence Clearwater Revival songs were just like enough. So okay, good thought. So that's all I got on sports and music. To get to some pop culture, and we got some lists coming up. Go ahead, there, Fish.
All right, so just a couple things here, guys. Yeah, current stuff out there. Couple recommendations. I started watching I started watching. I did watch it last night. The Gray Man on Netflix. So this is with Ryan Gosling
Mm-hmm.
and
Captain America.
Chris. Yes, I had it here. Excuse me. But anyway, great movie. Go check that out. Chris Evans. That's what I'm trying to think of.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a very good bad guy, Chris Evans. He was a real scumbag in this movie, so it's a completely different tone and feel for him. So it actually reminds you how good of an actor he really is beyond his Captain America role. But anyway, great movie, highly produced, great acting, great storyline. Go check it out. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but basically, it's like Ryan Gosling's like a prisoner that gets recruited into the
Yes.
CIA to become an assassin, and then basically his usefulness has wore out, and they're out to get him. It's a whole intrigue and everything around that. Billy Bob Thornton was in this movie. He was terrific as well
Mm-hmm.
as like the ex CIA boss. So again, solid movie. Go check it out. Good watch on Netflix.
Just started it today.
Okay, yeah, I know you're hooked already. I know we talked
I
about
was.
it a
It was
little bit.
great. It started off with a great scene, him in prison
Yep.
talking to Billy Bob. I love the bubblegum exchange thing. That was cool. So I didn't get to Chris Evans yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's cool that the Russo brothers have such a great relationship with Chris
Yeah.
Evans to use him again after 9, 10 appearances in the Marvel movies. And I also heard a little tidbit that Chris Evans is pining to reprise his role as the Human Torch.
Oh gosh, no,
Mm-hmm.
no. Although he was great in that role, but we don't need the crossover like that. He's Captain America in the Marvel
Yeah,
universe. Don't
exactly.
do it.
Don't mess it
Yeah,
up.
I did put a clip on our Twitter account out there. That there's a line Chris Evans says is put a bullet in that Ken doll. We are referring to Ryan Gosling, who of course is playing Ken in a new Barbie movie that's coming out here very shortly. So I thought that was kind of I don't know if it was an improv line or what, but I thought that was pretty funny to
Yeah.
work that into the movie. A couple other comic specials I recommend, guys, is Bill Burr Live at Red Rocks. It's a new special on Netflix. Yeah, Bill Burr really is. I mean,
Funny man.
yeah, very smart comedian.
Underrated.
Yeah, I agree with you. Not for everybody, but he just talks real. He
Yeah.
talks real stuff going on in his life. He talks about his views on abortion, and he talks about there's a real good bit on equal pay in women's sports. That is really powerful, and
I
he
can't
just
wait to
lets
see
it
it.
fly. So yeah, go check that out. And we talked about Dave Chappelle in our last episode where, he had a recent event canceled and everything. But he has a new event new special, on Netflix. It's like a 40 minutes. So it's a very quick, easy listen, but very good, very profound. It's What's in a Name. So his old school, the Duke Ellington School of the Arts, where he went to high school, they wanted to name their performance hall after him. And he said, basically, no, I'm not going to let you do that. And he tells a story as to why he turned it down, and they called it something different. They called it the Theater for Artistic Freedom and Expression. So he explains why he turned it down and the meaning behind that, his whole experience going to that school and what it meant for him. And very, very good special. Like I said, 40 minutes. Definitely, if you're a Chappelle fan, you will certainly enjoy that. Go check that out. Okay, in the world of pop culture here, guys, a couple deaths here I want to mention. One is famed Leave It to Beaver actor Tony Dow, who, of course, played Wally, the older brother on that series. Passed away recently. They had accidentally announced his death too early, and he was actually in hospice care, but he has since actually did pass away. He was 77 years of age, and the poor man had liver cancer. Leave It to Beaver. I mean, us growing up here, guys. I mean, in our era, a lot of reruns of the '60s television shows were all over Channel 43 and local cable. Eventually made their way to Nick at Night, so it could be fans out there that are a little younger than us that maybe got their taste of some of these old shows at Nick at Night and stuff. But Leave It to Beaver was one that I would check out. It was just as you guys know, it was a very amongst many wholesome family shows back in its time. The characters were interesting. I don't know. It's just a super wholesome thing. I like the show. I like Tony Dow in it. So. Any thoughts, Keith, on Leave It to Beaver or Tony Dow in general?
Not too much on Tony Dow. The only thing I know about him is playing Wally. When I was a kid, we loved that show. We watched it, but there was some damage done to us about that show. That show, especially, gosh, how can I put this? That show did, I think, damage to a lot of people, and I thought maybe it was especially to a lot of Black families growing up, but maybe you guys can attest to this as well. I thought shows like that and the Brady Bunch did some psychological damage because I thought I was missing out on life because life wasn't like that on there.
Too wholesome?
Where mom didn't have to work, and mom was dressed so nice all the time. She was cooking, and dress clothes and hair and makeup perfect. And I was like, if this is what life is like, God, it must be great to be white because, our life is nothing like this. My mom was working like a dog, 2 jobs all the time and whatever. And the Brady Bunch was even worse. I was like, man, what kind of job's this guy? Whereas this guy got his wife don't have to work. They live in this freaking house. They're supporting 6 kids like it's nothing. And it was just like, wow. But other than that, I love that show when I was growing up. Skinner?
Yep. Yeah, I have to agree with you. Those shows were too wholesome, and they shed
unrealistic.
Light on it. Yeah, it was very unrealistic. I know. I was, grew up in a family. My dad was the primary breadwinner, but my mom started to work part time to make ends meet. You watch these shows like you mentioned, Leave It to Beaver and Brady Bunch and 8 is Enough was another show where there was 8 kids in that family. But
I honestly thought that's how all white people lived.
It was.
I did.
Yeah. So
it was.
I absolutely
you did
agree
miss
with
out.
you that it gave a bad message in the long run. So
Fisher, I can't stand you.
Yeah, my dad would smile when he would hit me. Give me a paddle. Now, son, this hurts me more than it hurts
you. Don't be so hard on the beef. I'm very disappointed. Oh no!
Yeah, so many lines off of that show.
Yeah, my mom was disappointed. All right, with the switch.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to family ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do?
Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
And a very significant television actress in our time, Nichelle Nichols, passed away with a weekend, 8 or 9 years of age. And of course, she played Lieutenant Nyota Uhura on Star Trek. So very influential in her time. Obviously, you had a major television show with a black actress, a black crew member there, who had a pretty prominent role in the show. Also very famous back then, and a kiss kind of heard around the world where she kissed William Shatner, kissed Captain Kirk on the series. And that was a very big deal back then. And a lot of people cite that kiss as basically telling the world that, interracial couples is okay. It's okay. It's not something that you can't show on television. And kudos to the network and for doing it.
Took 40 years
right?
to put the stigma war off, but still, it was a message.
Yep. And then I didn't realize this until after she eventually started to work with NASA and helped recruit young Black Americans into the space program, and NASA recognized her in her passing as well for her efforts in the space program as well. So definitely very influential woman. She was obviously on the entire Star Trek series. She was in all the movies with the original cast. So, So Keith, any thoughts on Ms. Nichols and her contributions and Star Trek in general? What do you think, sir?
I don't think we have enough time for me to really give what I feel. I don't know what it is about the theme of today's show, but a lot of people who we feel are underappreciated. Bill Russell. So you talk about underappreciated. Nichelle Nichols, in my opinion, does not get the respect that she deserves for what she has done for so many women, particularly Black women. One of my favorite stories I heard her tell was how she was going to quit Star Trek after the first year. And it got around that she was quitting. And she was at I think a rally or a party, I can't remember. And she got a tap on the shoulder. And it was Dr. Martin Luther King. And she turned around, she was shocked. And he said, I heard you're quitting Star Trek. And she said, yeah, I was on. And he goes, don't you dare. And she goes, why? And he said, because as long as you're sitting in that chair, you are telling young Black women, we are more than housekeepers. We can be more than just maids on television.
Right.
And you are showing that you are something. Don't you get out of that chair. And that is the reason she did not quit Star Trek.
There you go. Very good.
I just think she went on to inspire Pam Grier, Diane Carroll, Kennedy. I forget her first name. Jane Kennedy. I think if it wasn't for her saying, look, we're beautiful. We are, in an important position. I just thought it was awesome. It was a futuristic show, and it took a while for that to happen. But I think the importance of Nichelle Nichols is clearly understated. Great, great, great woman.
Very good. Skinner?
I got nothing more to add. I sentiments exactly as what Keith said. She was a groundbreaker and what she did as far as young Black women in Hollywood, not just in Hollywood, but all across the country and all across the world. So yeah, she's very influential, and it's sad to hear of her passing.
All right, very good. All right, guys. Well, let's agree with the sentiments. Very well said. Let's lighten it up here a little bit. So obviously, Star Trek was a huge sci-fi television show. Continues on and on and on and on with different crews and storylines and all that. But I want to know. Go ahead, Keith.
I just want to say real quick before we go on. Very important. The new show, Star Trek, Strange New World. is so awesome because you get to see a young Naoda Uhura as a young what do they call it?
A cadet or
Not
something?
ensign. Yeah, there's another word I can't think of, but you know what I'm talking about, like a brand new cadet who wants to quit Starfleet. It's her first year on the Enterprise, and it is awesome to see that. So check that out.
So it's like a prequel to the Star Trek series, right? They're all
Yes,
younger, like you said,
yes,
right?
yes. Before
Okay.
Kirk, yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I'm interested to know. We did a list last week, so we talked about this a little bit. So what are your top 5 sci-fi shows? Whether it be now, then, whatever. And I'm not talking about movies. We're talking about television shows. So Skinner, when we start with you. So what are your top 5
I went back
sci-fi
then. I thought it
shows?
was back then.
Well,
Growing up.
I've
Just
only got
anytime.
one in this century. The rest of them are from before. I'm gonna go 5-1. Number 5, Bionic Woman.
Oh
Oh
my gosh! Yeah,
shoot.
how did I forget
Lindsay
that?
Wagner. Now, I didn't watch this show when I was a kid. I was too
Hmm.
young when this show
Okay.
originally aired. I was able to appreciate it when I became a young adult. And talk about the Hollywood crush for a lady that is on television that I had for
Need to
Lindsay
kick your butt.
Wagner. Man, oh man, she played a fantastic role.
Yeah.
The show, yeah, and there's a reason that show made it as big as it did. It was a great show. Kind of along the same themes. Number 4, Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Uh,
The
Trisha-
original or the reboot?
the
Or
reboot.
both?
The original was back in the 50s. I never did see that. I may
No,
want to.
no. The original was
Was it 50s or
70.
60s?
Original was in the 80s,
No,
No.
the original was like late 70s.
Late 70s. You're
late
right.
70s, right? Yeah, late
Okay.
70s.
Yeah.
So the reboot had Trisha Helfer, Grace Park, and Katie Sackhoff.
One of the greatest shows ever.
My goodness. I mean,
One of the
you
greatest
talk
shows
about
ever.
young males watching the television show. And if you're a Star Wars or sci-fi geeks like we were in heaven watching that show. But it had great stories. It had a great plot that was predominant throughout the entire series. I think it was 4 years that show was on the air. So anyways, on to my next one, which was Gotham. I thought Gotham did very well on TV. Great writing, told a lot of stories prior to how Batman became Batman, leading up to his parents dying and all that. My number 2, X-Files.
Oh man,
Mm.
But that was a huge phenomenon. You either watched X-Files or you didn't.
Yes, we ran
was
home
no-
to catch X-Files.
Yeah, there was no, I'll watch it this week and not watch it next week. It's either you watched it religiously or you didn't watch it at all. Great show. And my number 1, Star Trek Next Generation. Watched every episode of that series probably at least twice, if not more. Great show.
Excellent.
So that's my top 5.
Very good.
Great list.
Keith?
Great list. Okay, so I went specifically growing up, my list.
That's fine.
Yeah, I want to say a disclaimer. I broke my leg one time. I was stuck in the house. A friend gave me a bunch of cassettes. I think this is when I broke my leg. And of Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's when that was my version of streaming. I watched it like a stack of cassettes and became a fan. All-time favorite show. But with that being said, my list of favorite top sci-fi shows growing up. Number 5, I have a two-way tie. Space 1999. Man, I just love that show. Especially with what was her name? She turned into an animal. I just thought she was something hot. And the $6 Million Man. So those are two great. That was just a young boy's fantasy. We used to run like this.
Yeah.
Don't know
You
how
still do that today?
Yeah,
I still do that today
I still
sometimes.
have to go into the bathroom. Yeah, okay.
Matter of fact,
man.
when Allie texts me to this day,
Uh-huh.
that's my text message from her. It's the Bionic symbol.
Oh, okay.
We watch the old series sometimes together. Anyway,
That's
yeah.
great.
Yep.
All right. Number 5 was the 70s Battlestar Galactica. Side note, I think the remake of Battlestar Galactica is one of the greatest shows ever made. But back then, I loved Battlestar Galactica. Back then, didn't miss it. Number 3, The Greatest American Hero.
Good
Man,
one.
just a good,
That's a
fun
good one.
show. Best theme song ever. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Number 2 is Buck Rogers and the 25th Century.
Oh yeah, so
Oh,
That really made
So good.
space cool back then.
Yes.
I thought that was great. Um, and of course, I have a tie with the Incredible Hulk. It was the first time we got to see the Hulk with Bill Bixby. It became more than just a sci-fi thing. It was this tragic story of him going from town to town and town with this amazing little sad song playing at the end. It was very emotional to watch at the end. And of course, I want to give honorable mention. It was before my time. This Superman with George Reeves. I got to watch the remakes growing up, and it was great. And also Babylon 5, another great show.
Very good. I'll give you guys something real quick here. I looked up something. I looked at the Hulk, I'm sure, on my YouTube feed, and so I get all these on YouTube. I get all these Hulk in my algorithm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Someone today, it popped up in my feed. Look up the Hulk with the Three Stooges. Someone took the old Three Stooges courtroom scene and superimposed Bill Bixby in the witness stand, trying to keep it together and not turn into the Hulk, and the Stooges keep making him angrier and angrier, and eventually becomes the Hulk with the three. Pretty funny. Go check that out. So anyway, I have also the $6 Million Man. Lee Majors, awesome. And again, going back and rewatching those is just fun and goofy and silly. But Lee Majors was actually quite good on that show, and a very good premise. And the premise holds up even to this day pretty well. I also have the Battlestar Galactica from the late 70s. Just as a kid, the Cylons, and the original only lasted one season. It seems like it lasted longer, but the original was only one season.
And that's something.
And then they came back and did a 1980 version of it, and then that failed miserably. And then obviously they had the reboot, which was very successful. This is one I used to watch religiously after school. Lost in Space. So Will Robinson, the robot. They had the movie, and then there's a reboot of that on Netflix too. I've not seen it, but it's supposed to be good. Yeah,
it's freaking amazing, dude. You have never seen anything like it. Watch it.
I will go check that out for sure.
The best effects you've ever seen.
One of my favorite shows as a kid is on your list too, Keith, the Buck Rogers. Two seasons. Season 2 goes completely off the rails with the Hawk and all that crazy dumb stuff.
Right.
But season 1 was just so. It was definitely of its time, sexist and goofy and everything else. But Gil Gerard was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then the great Mel Blanc as Twiggy's voice, and just a lot of well-acted. Yeah, it was well-acted and entertaining season. It really, really was. And number one of my favorite television shows of all time, even to this day, the original Twilight Zone series, Rod Serling.
Great
Matter of fact, it's healing still now, but I got a Twilight Zone themed tattoo this past Thursday. This is from the Nick of Time with William Shatner back then. And I'll give a shout out to Scott Oswald at Golden Heart Tattoo over in the Norton area. Go check him out. He does great work. He also did my other tattoo here. Anyway, so the Twilight Zone, one of the greatest television shows, period.
I didn't even think
ever
of it.
Existed.
That would make high on my list, maybe 1 or 2. Excellent.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. Okay. We just got a couple minutes left here, guys. So just looking at this week at pop culture history, I would be remiss if I did not mention we're shooting this on August the 1st. Today, back in 1981 here, gentlemen, the very first music video aired on MTV. Last week we mentioned some of our favorite one-hit wonders, and this one made my list. The Buggles. Video Killed the Radio Star was the very first video on MTV. Again, it's astounding to think it was that long ago. And obviously for us, changed the face of music and television in our youth for sure. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I had MTV on almost.
I don't know who didn't.
Constantly.
I don't know who did.
Almost constantly. And why did you watch it so much? Because you wanted to see what was the next video. It was an ingenious formula back in the day, but Yeah. So thoughts in general, MTV when it first launched, Keith. Do you remember watching it?
Oh
Did
my
you have to
gosh,
warm up to
I
it, or were
didn't
you an
catch the
instant fan?
I didn't catch the very first one, but I think it was just maybe a few months after it aired. I caught on to it, and I was mesmerized. I couldn't stop watching it, And I remember kept trying to watch it and beat it, and it was just instant attraction. By the time I hit my teenage years, we didn't watch anything but. That's
Yeah.
all. I mean, we had MTV parties, hanging out, watching videos, man, trying to see what was next. And what really just hurts me to my bone. I teach music history to my students, and we're on the '80s and MTV, and
Hmm.
talking to them about it, they're just kind of looking at me like I don't get what the big deal was. They're so easy to stream anything they
Oh
want to
yeah.
watch. Want to see this video? Oh, we pull up on YouTube or whatever. And they don't understand what it was like to have to wait for that video to come around in rotation, all day long.
Hmm.
And we had to wait till,
Hmm.
be able to record on VCR and try to catch that stuff and play back your videos, and they're fuzzy and scratch for a minute. You missed the beginning of the song. And they don't know anything about that stuff. And I'm like, gosh, you guys, you missed an exciting time. It changed music forever. There were certain people who people cared about. Nobody cared about them after MTV. And what MTV did for a lot of music artists was, man, you could get over if you looked good. You didn't
Yep.
have to be that good musically, but if you look good or had somebody make you create a video, you could become a star. And it did that a lot for a lot of artists.
That's right. Very good. Skinner, any thoughts on MTV?
Oh,
Mm.
like you said, who didn't watch MTV and who didn't wait for that next video? My favorite part of MTV growing up was the Headbangers Ball.
Without
Oh, sure.
question.
Yep.
I would stay up till God knows when, whenever that show came on. It was late at night. My mom always complained, "What are you waiting for all that head banging terrible music?" I said, "Mom, leave me alone. I'm not going to go outside. I'm not going to cause any trouble. Just let me watch Headbangers Ball."
This
It
is our
was
time, Mom.
Yes. And it was a time that I would just sit in the living room, watch the television. Mom would be upstairs in bed. She didn't bother me. I didn't bother her. But boy, I remember watching Headbangers Ball and couldn't wait for the premiere videos on the new songs that came out. That
Yep.
to us was the best thing of my childhood, especially musically. It was MTV and Headbangers Ball.
I agree. Future list topic, our favorite videos of all time. Keep that in mind. We'll do another future list
Sure.
on our favorite videos of all time.
Mhm.
So, all right. And then just to mention here real fast, 1996, August the 3rd, the Macarena debuted for the first time. Almost like the excitement of MTV, and then you roll out the Macarena. It was definitely a hit of its time. It was. I mean, hey, give them credit. They got a huge hit out of it, and that dance to this day is still done at wedding receptions and all that, even now. So certainly in our generation, a lot of women our age know how to do the Macarena from the '90s. That's for sure. It was prevalent in the clubs and everything back then. So did
Real
it drive
quick
you
story
nuts?
about
Go ahead.
real quick story about that. I was in Germany when that song actually came out across the pond.
Hmm.
So I had it in my ear way before it even hit the States. And it was overrun then before it even hit the States. And then comes across and hits the States. And I'm like, oh, God, not this song again. So I got a double dose of it.
Dumbest dance I've ever seen.
Yep. So simple, whatever.
I think
So,
it's dumb. I think people look dumb doing it. I hate the
yep.
dance and that song.
All right, and before MTV, one vehicle for bands to promote themselves was the American Bandstand. So the American Bandstand debuted this week, all the way back in 1950, August the 5th,
Incredible.
1950. Dick Clark. Think about all of just too numerous to even cite. All the way through the '80s. Some of the big '80s artists certainly made their debut, television debut on American Bandstand. So it was a cultural icon of its time, for sure. So I used to watch it on Saturdays. I mean, even as a kid, I remember that Dick Clark was always appealing. He
Didn't
was a
miss
great
it.
host on anything he did. And it was just fun and fresh and new. And the kids dancing is really a simple but ingenious concept to have all the teenagers dancing around to
It
the
was great.
artist up there on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Before MTV, it was the one thing that kids could call their own.
You're
You
right.
know,
Great point.
and it was a great way to see your favorite artist for the first time, as opposed to just hearing them. And it was a great way to end a Saturday morning of cartoons. You watch your
Yeah.
cartoons, your breakfast, then you go on to Dick Clark, and it was awesome. And I remember specific episodes, and of course, the one that sticks out in my mind the most is when he was blown away when the Jacksons came to him and said, "We got something new for you." And he was like, "Great, let's hear it." He goes, "No, we got to show it to you." He's like, "What? Show it?" There wasn't even such thing as the concept of a video. That he was like a video, and they had the song "Can You Feel It," and it's an extraordinary video to this day. It watches it, it's very planetary outer space. It blows your mind, and it blew his mind. And he debuted it on his show. And of course, after that, videos were mainstream. After that, very incredible.
Very good. Skip, that might have been before your time a little bit. Did you watch Bandstand growing up at all?
I remember it. Anybody that was into music would watch American Bandstand. I watched it towards the end, but I remember I remember seeing a lot of vintage videos of white people trying to dance on that damn show. Yeah, that was like you said, a cultural icon. Bands made it big once they got on stage there. So we don't really have anything like that nowadays, do we?
No.
Not when it comes to music. I mean, you got The Voice and you got American Idol and you got this and you got that. But does any of that compare to American Bandstand or
No,
Star
there was nothing
Search
like
that
that.
we
We
talked
got
about? Eddie McMahon.
we got Soul Train
Yeah.
after that, which was
Mhm.
a legend unto itself.
Right.
But after that, we haven't had anything close to that. Those two.
Yeah. All right, and we have also not had anything close to Lucille Ball. Just mention her real fast here. August the 6th. She was born in 1911. And I want to mention her as well because we talked about Star Trek earlier on this episode, and Lucille Ball was actually instrumental in helping Star Trek get off the ground. So she was she was able to help produce that show, and she convinced the network to, even though the pilot originally failed, she convinced the network to keep it on the air for a whole different feel, and you can be into reruns as well. She said the show could be on for many, many years, and everything she said was accurate.
Mhm.
I mean, it certainly was reran. It continues to be in reruns to this day and spawn
I call myself a
many
Trekkie. I didn't know
universes.
that. Incredible.
Yeah. How about that? So, happy birthday, Lucille Ball. Obviously, you're in her own right, comedic genius and television shows and all that. So, very, very good. So, one more icon we have to mention real fast here is our sponsor, RPM Bike Shop, family-owned business out of Carrollton, Ohio. Quality electric bikes at an affordable price. Find all their information on their Facebook page or their website, RPM Bike Shop. Thank you for your sponsorship out there. And Keith, another comedic genius of our generation, a cultural icon, Mike Skinner Sr., is now set again to give us another quality outro. Well, before I do that, do you have any announcements, Keith?
I just want to say one quick shout out. I want to thank Joel Ramey in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, sending me this awesome King of the Rings Pittsburgh Steelers shirt. Love you. Thank you. Feel better. Appreciate it.
Very good. I'll mention as well, find me and my other podcast, Convincing Idiots, with Dean and Nick, pop culture theme podcast, 3 idiots from 3 generations. Check us out where you listen to podcasts as well, Convincing Idiots. Now, we'll take it over to cultural icon, Mike Skinner Sr.
A couple shout outs to my son, Michael Skinner Jr., for the behind the scenes with our show.
Yes.
As well as Christophus Dominic. We thank you from WNVU.org Without Chris, we wouldn't be on the air still to this day, I don't believe. Truthfully, Chris, thank you for
without
everything.
question. And happy birthday to Skinner's daughter Ashley. Love you, sweetie.
Yes. Shout out to my daughter Ashley and Amy both. They turned 20-something.
Right. Twins.
On Saturday. Amy and her husband are down in Florida. Happy anniversary today to them. Shout out to them. Their anniversary 1 year today. Can you believe that, Keith?
Very
I
good.
can't believe it. I had the privilege of marrying the two, and when I saw the picture today, I was like, I cannot believe it's been a year. Wow.
Right. Crazy. So for Brian Fisher and Keith Porter, I'm Michael Skinner. We are the guys from Gen X. It came from Gen X. We appreciate you, our listeners. One more week down the hatch, guys.
One more show.
And one real quick shout out, Coach Cooper. Hope you feel better, bud.
Get better, my friend. I asked
Stay
him if I could
strong,
do
Jen.
anything for him today. He said tequila, so I stopped talking to him. Take
Stay
care,
strong.
We're
everybody.
strong, Gen X.
Yeah, cut. Hey, this is Skinner from It Came From Gen X. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and like, and we'll see you next time.